the return of the true heir. The Vanhelsings were among the wealthiest families in the country, owners of a multinational conglomerate, patrons of charities, and residents of an estate that looked more like a royal palace than a home. But beneath all the gold leaf opulence and smiling portraits was a wound that had never healed. Years ago, their only biological son, Elias, had been kidnapped during a family trip abroad. He was only 6, with bright eyes that held galaxies of curiosity. His disappearance had shattered Vincent and Helena Vanhelsing, leaving them haunted shadows of the people they once were. Years of futile searches passed, and finally, with heavy hearts, they adopted another child, a quiet boy named Caleb from a reputable orphanage. Caleb was everything they needed: obedient, composed, and intelligent. He filled the silence in the house and brought back their will to smile again. Over time, Helena and Vincent came to love him deeply. He called them Mom and Dad, and he never asked for more than they could give. Slowly, painfully, life began to move forward. Then, one stormy afternoon, everything changed. A disheveled boy, 17 now, arrived at the estate's iron gates. His clothes were worn, his frame too thin, but his eyes, those eyes, were unmistakable. DNA tests confirmed it. Elias had survived. He'd escaped the people who'd held him for over a decade. With trembling hands and a heart full of hope, he walked into the home that was once his. But the house was no longer the one he remembered. The warmth had turned cold. His room had become a study. His photos were replaced. And Caleb, now 18, watched him with unreadable eyes and a charming smile that masked something darker. The parents welcomed Elias with cautious love. Helena cried in his arms, and Vincent promised to make up for the years lost. But behind closed doors, Caleb began to work. He made subtle accusations, never outright, but always implied. Elias left the door unlocked again. I had to lock up. He gets violent when he's upset. Maybe it's trauma? Is it really safe to let him handle the family affairs so soon? Slowly, doubt slithered in. Elias was rough around the edges, understandably. He'd been abused, starved, treated like an animal. He wasn't polished like Caleb. He had a temper. He flinched at sudden movements. He didn't speak like the rich anymore. And Caleb, always so gentle and considerate, made sure the parents noticed the contrast. It didn't stop there. Valuable antiques disappeared and turned up in Elias's things. Emails Elias never sent reached business partners with offensive language. One night, the family dog, a gift from Helena to Elias, was found dead in the greenhouse. The staff began whispering. Vincent's eyes clouded with confusion. Helena couldn't sleep. Elias cried alone at night, torn between rage and heartbreak. He didn't understand why his parents were pulling away, why the house that bore his name now treated him like a stranger. Caleb's smile widened with every passing day, hiding behind it a monstrous glee. Until the night of the fire. The east wing of the Vanhelsing estate went up in flames. Elias's room was consumed. His body was found charred beyond recognition. The official report said it was an accident, perhaps a candle left burning. But some suspected suicide, others murder. Caleb cried louder than anyone, holding Helena tightly as she wailed. The Vanhelsings buried their real son for the second time. But fate is not always cruel. Somewhere beyond the veil, where time and space folded, a whisper passed between the stars. A mistake had been made, a soul lost before his time, and the universe, in one rare act of mercy, bent the laws of life. Helena Vanhelsing awoke to a sunny morning. Her head pounded with confusion. She was lying in bed, her silk gown pristine, and the calendar read a date 17 years ago. Her husband stirred beside her and blinked at the clock. That day was impossible. It was the morning Elias returned. She ran to her husband, heart racing. "Vincent, something's wrong. I dreamt, no, I remembered, everything." His eyes widened. I remember it too. the fire, Elias, Caleb. They said nothing more. They didn't know why or how, but both were back, reborn on the day their real son returned. Time had given them a second chance. This time, they were ready. When Elias stepped onto the property, ragged and hopeful, he was met not with hesitation, but with arms thrown around him and weeping apologies whispered through kisses. "You're home," Helena said, holding his face in trembling hands. Vincent nodded. "And no one will take that from you again." Caleb watched from the hallway, stunned at the intensity of the welcome. Something was off. They weren't hesitant. They weren't confused. They knew. Helena and Vincent didn't confront Caleb outright. That would have been foolish. No, this time they watched him. They hired new staff loyal to them. They installed hidden cameras. They combed through adoption records and found inconsistencies, clues they missed before. The orphanage Caleb came from had ties to the same ring that kidnapped Elias. They discovered everything: how Caleb had always known who Elias was, how he manipulated the kidnapping to his advantage, sneaking into the family like a serpent in silk. This time, when he planted drugs in Elias's room, the cameras caught it. When he poisoned the dog, they had proof. When he tried to hack the estate's finances and pin it on Elias, digital forensics traced every move. Caleb was arrested in a quiet, coordinated sting. Helena and Vincent stood by Elias, watching as the boy who stole their lives was taken away in chains. "You always smiled like that," Elias said quietly. "Like you already owned everything." Caleb glared at him. "You were too broken to deserve what I gave up everything to have." "You never had it," Elias replied, voice steady. "You just wore my skin." The months that followed were filled with healing. Elias received therapy. Helena and Vincent stepped down from their corporate thrones for a while to spend real time with their son. They visited the places he remembered from his childhood. They rebuilt his room exactly the way it had been. They learned who Elias was now, scars and all. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And this time, no smile, no lies, no mask could steal what belonged to him. Because fate had tried to tear them apart. But love, sharpened by grief and reborn in fire, had brought them back together. And this time, nothing would break them again.